We are going to start with
Kitty
the
cats.
Detroit Lions. Let's go ahead and bring them up here. So what's going to run through some of these Detroit Lions coming off a solid year. So we'll start with the reigning NFC North
First time in a long
champion.
time.
And we'll start with their record. They're coming off a record of 12-5 last year. Some of their losses, lost both their guards, Vaitai and Jackson, some pretty good players there. Josh Reynolds, solid starting wide receiver. Cam Sutton and CJ went back to Philly. So losing some guys in the secondary, some guys in the front, but they did bring in a lot. They brought in defensive tackle DJ Reader, who we'll talk about in a second. Carlton Davis from the Bucks, Marcus Davenport, and then Kevin Zeitler, who just keeps getting passed around the league, but he's a solid offensive guard. And then they really went cornerback heavy, picking up Amik Robertson, Terrion Arnold, and Enix Regstra. Probably butchered that, so apologies. Or maybe Rockstraw. I don't know, but hey,
you get cut off.
Yeah, rookie out of Missouri there, and then Mr. Jake Bates, Mr. UFL. Mr. Big Leg himself, getting a 2-year contract. So let's go ahead and start talking about some of these big takeaways. So, I think that some of the things talking about that secondary. So I'll lead us off here talking about the secondary. I think they were, when you looked at the Lions last year, that's what I think they were missing was those, especially at the cornerback position. I think it is improved on paper, right? A lot of young guys, the 2 rookies, their first 2 round draft picks. That's what they started with. But they also brought in a veteran in Carlton Davis from the Bucks. You got Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, who we're going to talk about in a little bit there. But I do think they're making a good effort on the secondary there. What are some takeaways you were thinking?
I think you nailed it. I mean, obviously they lose CJ back to Philly, but they brought in a ton of DBs with a ton of talent. Like you said, they brought in the veteran in Carlton Davis, who was a stud down in Tampa, but they also brought in a couple young bucks in terms of Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. So, like you said, I think that was their big, lacking point. They weren't great against the pass last year, but then they also brought in a couple guys up front with Marcus Davenport to go opposite
Hutch there.
Yeah, Hutch.
Yeah.
And then DJ Reader up front. So obviously their offense put up some points last year, but they did lose Josh Reynolds, who was probably their number 2. They really didn't have much of a number 2. Which is kind of a concern that they didn't bring in another pass catcher to me personally.
No, I agree.
But, I think they brought in guys where they needed the most.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty fair. Before we get too far down that hole, let's talk about some of the big injuries there. You got a couple, 2 major ones. We'll start with defensive tackle DJ Reader, one of their big offseason acquisitions there, quad tendon tear. Pretty severe injury. Like it sounds, the tendon that connects your quad to your patella at the top of your knee there, it was torn, a complete tear. He does require surgery, about 6 to 8 month recovery. He's got about 8.5 months until he gets back. So what are you thinking as far as DJ Reader? Do you think he comes back and slides in? He takes a little time. What are your thoughts there with the 8.5 months until week 1?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, the expected recovery is like that 6 to 8 month. We have that time, but at the same point, like if the Lions want to get to where they want to get, like they were so close last year to getting a super or getting to the Super Bowl. I would not be surprised if he's on like a snap count early on, just to get him back into the swing of things. Like you said, if we're expecting him to be out 6 to 8 months, that puts us right into training camp, maybe into training camp before he actually gets on the field. So it may take him a little bit of time to actually get rolling again.
No, yeah, absolutely. Right. I'm right there with you. Right. I think that, it's not like I'm worried about him not playing this year or anything like that. Crazy. But I think it could be a slow start. He's a big boy. He's going to take some time to get him back used to it. So I would not really be counting on him in the early part of the year. I think he'll kind of make his way back on. But I think that defense, that D line can kind of make up for him there. You got Aleem McNeil, You got a couple backups, so that might be a position where they're kind of missing out early on. Broderick Martin, Levi Onwuzurike. If I don't know your name, I watch a lot of football. That's probably not a good sign. So a little bit of concern early on, but again, that defensive line with Hutchinson, Ali McNeil, who's sneaky in the sack market, probably the snack market too. It's probably not bad there.
He loves the snacks to get the sacks.
Yes, exactly. And then Davenport on the other side. That's a pretty solid group there. We got Kirby Joseph, who was trying to keep it under wraps, but he had hip surgery after the season.
Battled most of the season with it.
Yeah, I think he picked up the injury in week 2, and then required hip surgery. So whether that's a labrum or they didn't really say. Probably something around internal. Obviously,
some labral stuff going on there. Probably, yeah.
So he's looking at about a 7-month recovery per reports. Because we don't know the exact injury. We're just going off the reports of what they're saying. He's got about 5 to 7 months. The recovery time's around 5 to 7 months. He's got 7 months until week 1 from when he had the surgery. It's gonna be very interesting in training camp if he's gonna be back or not. I think that would be on the early side. I kind of almost wouldn't expect him to. You got Brian Branch on the other side, who's also coming off of ankle surgery that he had a cleanup procedure in May. He was seen with the scooter, and they kind of Campbell was finally said it was an injury because he was dealing with some ankle stuff last year, a little bit of a high ankle. And so it just kind of had a cleanup procedure, nothing crazy, but it does take, about 2 to 3 months to recover from most surgeries, even the minor ones. So, he's got 3 months until the season. So you really got both your starting safeties. They should be good to go, but I'm not super confident. There's not a lot of wiggle room for both those guys. How do you see it as far as Branch and Kirby Joseph? How worried are you?
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, it's a slight concern because those expected timelines kind of bump right up to week 1. So similar to DJ Reader, it may take them a few weeks to kind of get back into football shape, to get back in the swing of things, especially with all the new additions to the secondary. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to get those guys back in just to start, kind of building that rapport, building that chemistry with those new guys, or if they, try to protect them a little bit more, maybe put them on a slight snap count. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I mean, you really got 3 starters on defense that it's all in that same boat. If they're on the early end of their recovery, that rehab timeline, they should be good to go week 1, but they are getting pretty close. So really a situation you want to monitor early on in the season. Again,
and it's not like the Lions are starting with a couple, bottom of the road. They're starting with the Rams and Tampa Bay, who are both playoff teams. So it'll be interesting.
Matty Stafford,
both
revenge.
like to throw it around a little bit. So
yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, that one's definitely ones we're gonna be watching very closely as we start to get to our week 1 picks and start to see how these guys are coming along. But a little bit of pause early on. I don't think past week 4 this is really going to be an issue. But again, those first quarter of the season there. And then we got Jahmyr Gibbs, picked up a soft tissue injury in OTAs. Expected to be minors, but a lot more questions than answers here. It's hard to even speculate what it is. Likely something lower body, whether it's a calf or hamstring, whatever, soft tissue. I mean, they're not super concerned. He's got, what are we looking at? Almost a month, if not a little more, until training camp. So, if he's limited in training camp, I think we can start to have some concerns. But as of right now, based on what we know, I think we're it would be a little bit overreacting to kind of avoid him or anything like that. What's your take on it?
Yeah, no, I think like you said, it's really hard to say what a soft tissue injury really is.
Yeah.
And usually what that comes down to is some sort of a strain. So most likely he's trying to strengthen everything up as much as he can over the next month, and then start kind of almost testing the waters early on in training camp, getting back into sprinting, jumping, cutting, those kind of things.
Yeah. All right. Before we get over to the actionable information, whether that is fantasy or best bets, what you got any other takeaways for this team? Anything, big picture stuff for the Detroit Lions heading into 2024 season?
No, I think the biggest thing with the Lions is they finally did it. They finally got to the playoffs. They have some expectations. They have a number one schedule now, like a top of
Yep.
the division schedule.
Mhm.
So can they take that next step with those now high expectations
Yeah.
for
No.
those Lions?
Absolutely. I mean, it's still the Detroit Lions, right? You're always gonna have that pause for our pretty much our most of our lifetime. They've been
Oh
pretty
yeah,
active. So I think that definitely makes sense. One other thing I want to point out before we get into the bets, this offensive line is really, really fucking good on paper.
it is.
So we got Taylor Decker at the left tackle, Graham Glasgow at left guard, Frank
Mhm.
Ragnow center, Kevin Zeitler your right guard, and Penny Sewell on your right tackle. Man, uh, again, hey, we talk about football here. We're going to talk about the big nasties if they're really freaking good. And on paper, this may be one of the best offensive lines in the league. They were really good last year. When
Oh
I
yeah.
looked at their losses, I was a little, hesitant with Jackson and Vaitai leaving. I think Zeitler is a great addition.
Oh yeah.
I mean, really, I'm
Big slide
being
in
a
the next
Giants fan. I'm a strong believer that your team starts from the inside out. Your offensive, defensive lines. This offensive line, it means business. So I really
no doubt.
am excited there, and that's going to lead me. I'll kick us off here with these best bets. Actually, why don't you kick us off? Go ahead. What do you got?
So for the Lions, I'm a big Sam Laporta guy. I love Laporta, especially like I said earlier. Besides St. Brown, like
Yep.
who else are they going to throw it to? They really don't have a number 2 wide receiver option,
Yep.
and Goff will chuck it around. He'll throw it all over the place. So Sam Laporta and him got chemistry really quickly last year. So I'm going to take his over receiving yards at 850.5.
Yeah. Man, Laporta looked good, like straight from the get go. Man, he was a
That dude's
smash
a
pick.
monster.
Yeah, between
I
him and
saw
Gibbs and Sanborn, I
well,
mean,
and tight end U is going on right now,
not
or maybe just finished up or whatever. That dude is a monster. Standing
dude.
next to other tight ends, he's just jocked. I mean, he is
I
yoked,
I need an Iowa Hawkeye tight end on my team, man.
no
Maybe
doubt.
not any other position, maybe offensive line, maybe Cooper
Maybe
DeJean, but
punter.
that's tight end punter. Yeah, not too many, but if it's a tight end and he's a Hawkeye, I'll take him.
Mhm. Yeah,
I'll follow that up. Did you have any others for the lines there?
that was it for the Lions.
Okay. Yeah, in a similar fashion, I got two. First one I'll give out was kind of along those lines. We talked about, who is going to step up outside of St. Brown. You talked about Laporta. I think he can definitely get his work there. But, it's Jamison Williams and Khalif Raymond. And then maybe Donovan People-Jones, I guess. That's not really the most confident. I know every year people fall in love with Jamison Williams because he's a fast. He's fast as shit. I mean, there's no wrong about it, right? He can
Yeah,
make these plays, but he's had injury concerns, and he hasn't shown that he can be really anything but a flyer right now. I know he had a great career at Alabama, but Alabama,
one season at Alabama.
yeah,
Let's be real.
exactly. So I mean, yeah. Well, I know he's a former Buckeye, so you're not not always going to give him the
And
benefit of the doubt.
he couldn't crack the starting lineup in Columbus. But
Mm-hmm. Well,
who are we? Who am I?
yeah. So my first bet for the Lions is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown to lead the league in receiving yards at 11-1, plus 1100 there.
I had that one written down, so I really like that pick.
I mean, it is a little bit short for a market like this, but I do think 11-1 is still a good value here. He was third in the league last year, right? And I think he's like fifth in the odds market. He had a little bit over 1,500 yards. Tyreek had like 1,790 something.
Yeah. And really, like I said, I was looking at that market as well, and basically everybody other than CD Lamb has like a running partner with them. Like you said,
Mhm.
Tyreek Hill has Waddle.
Mhm.
AJ Brown has
Smith,
Smith.
yeah,
I
Puka.
mean, exactly. So most of those other guys have running partners that may be sharing some yards along the
Yeah,
way.
and you mentioned CeeDee Lamb, and I think, well, first of all, fuck the Cowboys, but also, I don't know if I don't know if they can really recreate that. I think
And
they got
who knows what
concerned.
Dak's gonna end up doing this year too. I mean, with his contract issues, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, I think things kind of fell apart for Dallas. I'm not super high on Dallas. We'll get to that episode. So But also 650, I think, is just too short for something that
Agree.
is, I think I need, if it's not, I need at least, even Amon-Ra, I was questioning it, but it's got to be over 10-1 for me in these markets. It's just, you're talking something season long. There's so many variables that can go into play here. But I think what we were talking about here is he's the clear alpha on this team, on the outside. And, a great offensive line. Yes, they're going to run the ball, but still, even with how much they ran the ball last year, he was not that far off pace. Like you said, Josh Reynolds, some other guys leave. And I really think this offense is going to put up some damn points this year, playing in a dome. So, and that defense, you got a lot of, we talked about how they may be better, but a lot of young secondary guys, may have to take some adjustment there. So give me that. And the other one I like is pretty simple.
Nate Bates for a 70-yarder. Oh,
yeah. Is pretty simple. NFC North champs, plus 150. I just think it's mispriced. Trust me, last year I was ready to fade the Lions. I did fade the Lions at a certain point. I was not trying to believe the hype until really they just kept proving me wrong. I'm not going to fall into that trap this year. They're a really good team. Again, that offensive line for me is a huge piece. Jared Goff, they got him playing as better as he has in his career. Montgomery and Gibbs, I would say the only other play I was looking at is Montgomery over, because every year people forget about David Montgomery. You know who does not forget about David Montgomery? Their head coach, Dan Campbell. He loves the shit out of David Montgomery. 5 yards in a cloud of dust, 3 yards, whatever it is. He loves that. So he's not going to stop giving the ball.
Kneecap.
Yeah, as much as the fantasy community loves Jahmyr Gibbs and he's an electric player, Dan Campbell loves Montgomery. So when that comes out, I will be on his
get inside the 10. Montgomery's getting the ball.
Yeah,
exactly. More often than not.
And I think that's why you keep Gibbs fresh, keep him, healthy. But Lions champs plus 150. Not anything sexy like the Amon-Ra pick. I just think they're the best team overall.